Hello, everyone. I'm Barbria DeÁnne, and welcome to the Story Beyond My Songs Viewer's Choice Update, where each week I shine a spotlight and tell you the full stories on the most viewed legacy shorts that touched your hearts, sparked your memories, and got the most love from you, the viewers. This week, your views chose powerful tributes to four unforgettable icons of soul. Rufus featuring Chaka Khan, the album that ruled 1976. When Truth Hurt, Stevie Wonder and Lula Hardaway's Blind Faith Controversy. The Supremes and the Temptations drop a Motown masterpiece, I'm Gonna Make You Love Me. And Remembering Jean Knight, the voice behind Mr. Big Stuff. These are your choices. These are your picks. So if you haven't already done so, please make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I upload content. And without further ado, let's get into the moments that made last week so special. I will love you anyway, even if you cannot stay. On November 18th, 1975, Rufus featuring Chaka Khan dropped the album that would shake up funk, soul, and the entire R&B world. This was their fourth studio album released on ABC Records, and it did not play around. It shot straight to number one on the R&B album charts and stayed there for 6 weeks straight, then went on to become Billboard's best-selling R&B album of 1976. And this album gave us the timeless classic Sweet Thing, written by Chaka Khan and Tony Maiden, a song that became a signature for generations. Rufus was already a powerhouse, but this record, it crowned Chaka Khan as a leading voice in 70s soul and solidified the band as R&B royalty. So today we celebrate the legacy of Rufus featuring Chaka Khan, a gold-selling album, a chart-topping masterpiece, and a defining moment in funk and soul music history. There are moments in music history when the stars line up so perfectly, the chemistry is so undeniable, that an album becomes more than just a collection of songs. It becomes a pulse, a heartbeat, a cultural shift. And that moment happened on November 18, 1975, inside a Los Angeles studio where the funk band Rufus and a young, fiery vocalist named Chaka Khan were about to release something the world wasn't ready for, but would never forget. Rufus was already on the rise. They'd hit with Tell Me Something Good, and the industry was beginning to understand that this was a band with serious musical teeth. But inside the booth stood the spark that set the whole thing on fire, and that spark was Chaka Khan. Barely in her 20s, she sang with the kind of depth you'd expect from someone who had lived 10 lifetimes. Soul, funk, jazz, gospel, rock, every genre bowed when she opened her mouth. When she stepped to the mic during these sessions, it wasn't just singing, it was channeling, feeling every vibration in that room as the band built the foundation beneath her. When Rufus featuring Chaka Khan hit the shelves, the music world tilted just a little. The sound was tighter, the groove was deeper, the risk was bolder. This was the first time the album billing put Chaka's name right in the title, not as a guest, but as a feature, an essential voice in the Rufus identity. And they weren't wrong. Almost immediately, radio stations jumped on it. DJs couldn't stop spinning the record. Listeners called in, asking who that voice was. That fierce, velvet-edged, untamed sound that sliced right through the speakers and landed straight in the chest. Within weeks, the album began climbing, and then dominating the R&B charts. As the new year rolled in, something beautiful happened. The album didn't fade away after its release. It caught fire. By February 1976, Rufus featuring Chaka Khan sat at number one on the Billboard R&B Albums chart, holding that spot for 6 consecutive weeks. And then came the crown, Billboard's Album of the Year for 1976. This album wasn't just popular, it defined an era. It colored the year with deep bass lines, sharp guitar licks, lush strings, and a horn section that punctuated every groove like an exclamation mark at the end of each measure. But if the album was the heartbeat, one song became its soul. Sweet Thing. Chaka Khan wrote it with guitarist Tony Maiden, not as a manufactured hit, not as something to chase radio airplay, but as a confession, a story, a moment whispered out loud. When she sings, I Will Love You Anyway, you feel it. You don't hear a young girl singing a ballad, you hear a woman who loved deeply, risked everything, and found the truth in vulnerability. By 1976, that song wasn't just a hit, it was an anthem. It soared to number 1 on the R&B charts and crossed over to number 5 on the Hot 100, pulling the entire album with it, taking Rufus and Chaka out of the clubs and into the living rooms, radios, and hearts of America. So why do we still talk about this album today? Why does Rufus featuring Chaka Khan still feel alive, still feel relevant nearly 50 years later? Because some music doesn't age. It expands. It grows into its influence. It teaches the next generation how to feel. This album captures the magic of a band in perfect synergy and a voice discovering its true power. It's the moment Chaka Khan became a force of nature, not to be ignored, not to be underestimated, but to be feared, respected, and celebrated. And it is the moment Rufus cemented themselves as one of the most musically sophisticated, most emotionally resonant funk bands of the 1970s. So, as we remember the release of that gold selling album, we're not just celebrating a chart topper, we're honoring a masterpiece. A moment in history when Chaka Khan's voice soared, Rufus found their stride, and 1976 received the soundtrack that would define a year and inspire decades.
Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours.
On November 20th, 2002, a rare and painful moment unfolded between a son and the mother who helped shape his genius. Stevie Wonder threatened to sue his own mother, Lula Mae Hardaway, over a passage in her autobiography, Blind Faith. In the book, Lula shared a story claiming Stevie lost his virginity to a woman of the night, a mattress worker. For Stevie, the story felt too personal, too exposing. For Lula, it was part of her truth. The life she lived raising a musical prodigy in a world that wasn't always kind. But the disagreement caused deep hurt, and out of respect, and to keep their bond from fracturing, that passage was removed. Every future copy of Blind Faith erased the story entirely. Lula Mae Hardaway wasn't just Stevie Wonder's mother. She was a woman who survived hardship, wrote Motown classics, and poured her entire soul into her son's destiny. But even the closest families have moments where love and truth collide. This chapter reminds us, behind every legend is a human story, tender, complicated, and real.
There are some names that you hear every day, and then there are some names that are the reason that we hear music at all. Today I want to tell you a story, not just about a song, but about a force. A woman who loved hard, worked harder, and raised a genius in a one-bedroom apartment in Detroit. Her name? Lula Mae Hardaway. You may know her son, a little guy named Stevie Wonder, but before there was superstition, before higher ground was even a whisper, there was a mother, a co-writer, a visionary, a woman who told her son, don't let them write you out of your own story. And so he didn't, because she didn't. In 1970, Stevie Wonder released what would become one of his signature hits, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. But he didn't write it alone. That hit, The Groove That Makes You Dance, That Hook That Makes You Shout was co-written by Lula Mae Hardaway, a woman with no formal training, just fire, faith, and a heart full of stories. Lula was more than Stevie's mom. She was his collaborator. She co-wrote hits like I Was Made to Love Her and You Met Your Match. But Signed, Sealed, Delivered, that was different. That was Lula stepping into her own. A moment where the music industry had to recognize this woman from Alabama who once scrubbed floors to feed her kids, she was now penning anthems that would never die. She didn't just help write the song, she was the song, signed with wisdom, sealed with soul, and delivered with love. Lula Mae Hardaway was not only a gifted songwriter, but also the author of the powerful memoir, Blind Faith, The Miraculous Journey of Lula Hardaway, Stevie Wonder's mother. In this deeply personal book, she tells her own story, one marked by poverty, abuse, resilience, and an unshakable belief in her son's destiny. With unfiltered honesty and emotional depth, Lula shares how her unwavering faith carried her through unimaginable hardships and helped shape one of the greatest musical icons of our time. Blind Faith is more than a biography. It's a testament to a mother's love, a woman's strength, and the kind of faith that sees beyond sight. Lula Mae Hardaway passed away in 2006 at the age of 76, and even though she left this world, the echoes of her love and her lyrics are still with us.
On November 21st, 1968, Diana Ross and the Supremes and the Temptations released a soul powerhouse, I'm Gonna Make You Love Me. This record brought two Motown giants together on one electrifying track. Diana Ross and Eddie Kendrick shared lead vocals with a smooth spoken interlude from Diana and Otis Williams, backed by the Funk Brothers and even the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. The sound was big, classic Motown magic. When it dropped, it took off, hitting number 2 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B charts, and reaching number 3 in the UK. It became one of the biggest collaborative hits of the entire Motown era. But did you know that in 1966, Dee Dee Warwick released the original version on Mercury? Produced by Jerry Ross, she even had background vocals by Ashford and Simpson. It reached number 13 on the R&B chart. Not a number 1 hit, but a very significant moment. But today, we celebrate the version recorded by two Motown powerhouse groups. Spin it, sing it, celebrate it. I'm Gonna Make You Love Me. It's more than a solo or a duet. It's a reminder that powerful things happen when legends come together. Now, what made I'm Gonna Make You Love Me truly unforgettable wasn't just the star power, it was the musical chemistry. You can hear Diana Ross's warmth glide right alongside Eddie Kendrick's satin falsetto. Their voices didn't compete, they completed each other. It was rare to see two superstar groups share one microphone, but Motown understood the magic of blending worlds. The Supremes were polished, glamorous, and crossover queens. The Temptations were smooth, sharp, and vocally unmatched. Together, they created a sound that felt like both a friendly challenge and a celebration. You could almost hear them smiling through the speakers, pushing each other higher. This record archived at a time when Motown was experimenting with television specials, cross-group performances, and dramatic pairings. Songs like this weren't just hits, they were events. And fans, they felt that. The single sold over 1 million copies, became a staple of their joint appearances, and even helped fuel the momentum for their famous TV special, TCB, Taking Care of Business. It was Motown saying, watch what happens when we bring our brightest stars together. And the appeal of the song itself? That was universal. The message, I love you and I'm gonna prove it, hit listeners right in the heart. People in 1968 felt it. Couples slow danced to it, radio DJs wore it out. It was tender, bold, and confident all at once. A promise set to a beat. Even today, I'm Gonna Make You Love Me is instantly recognizable from the very first note. It shows up in movies, documentaries, playlists, anywhere you need that classic Motown spark. And every time it plays, it brings us right back to Diana Ross and the Supremes and the Temptations standing side by side, giving us a duet for the ages. So today, when you press play, don't just hear a song, hear a moment. Hear the teamwork, the elegance, the swagger, the soul. I'm Gonna Make You Love Me is not just a record, it's history, a reminder of what happens when legends meet on the same stage and create something timeless.
The big stuff. Who do you think you are?
On November 22nd, we remember an unforgettable powerhouse, the New Orleans soul singer whose voice could stop you in your tracks. Born Jean Audrey Caliste in 1943, she grew up surrounded by the heartbeat of New Orleans music. And in 1971, she gave the world a song that became part of our cultural DNA, Mr. Big Stuff. Released by Stax Records, the song shot to number 1 on the R&B charts, number 2 on the pop charts, went double platinum, and earned her a Grammy nomination. Its sass, confidence, and groove still echo through generations. But she was more than a one-hit wonder. She was a nurse, a mother, and a lifelong performer who carried the spirit of New Orleans wherever she went. On November 22nd, 2023, she passed away at the age of 80. But her voice, her message, her legacy, they're still as bold as ever. She's the woman who asked, Mr. Big Stuff, who do you think you are? And made the whole world answer. Today, we honor Jean Knight on the anniversary of her passing. What many people don't realize is that Jean Knight's story didn't end with that massive hit. Not even close. After Mr. Big Stuff, she continued recording, performing, and refusing to let the industry box her into a single moment. She returned to her hometown roots and kept releasing music through the late 70s and 80s, including her fan favorite, You Think You're Hot Stuff, which brought that same New Orleans fire only she could deliver. Jean found her stride again in the 80s when she teamed up with producer Isaac Bolden and the Solon label. That partnership led to her second big chart moment, the 1985 hit My Toot Toot. The song took off internationally, earned her a Grammy nomination, and reintroduced her to a brand new generation. Suddenly, Jean Knight wasn't just a soul legend, she was a global festival headliner. Even as trends shifted and the music world evolved, she remained a touring force. She lit up stages at Jazz Fest, appeared on TV specials, and kept her calendar full with shows that mixed old school soul, New Orleans funk, and the unmistakable wit that made her a star. Rather singing in front of thousands or a small hometown crowd, Jean gave the same fire every single time. And through it all, she kept working as a nurse, balancing the spotlight with service, compassion, and community. That was Jean Knight, grounded, humble, and as real as the city she came from. So, on this day, as we honor the anniversary of her passing, we remember not just the legend behind Mr. Big Stuff, but the woman who built a lifetime of music, resilience, and joy. Jean Knight may have left us, but the groove she created, we are all still dancing to it. And there you have it, folks. Last week's Most Loved Stories now told in full for you to relive, remember, and cherish. If you enjoyed these moments, don't forget you can catch my weekly shorts right here on Barbria DeÁnne to vote with your views on next week's picks. And for deeper dives and full stories, make sure you subscribe to the Story Beyond My Song channel or become a member of this channel to view upcoming stories and classic songs where the music lives on in more than just a memory. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more stories beyond the legends that have shaped our lives. Until next time, keep the music alive by checking out this next video. Bye.